Hey everyone, John Hansbrook here with Acrisure. We're here with Zack Remmers from Origin. Zack is a strategic alliances account executive. Zack, can you explain what you do for Origin?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And thanks for having me, John. So, as you mentioned, Zack Remmers, I've been here with Origin for a little over 2 years now. But essentially, what I do is I partner with both groups and then essentially also employees as well to be able to provide really holistic financial wellness solutions in the marketplace. I'm really excited to be able to dig in further on like why financial wellness is important in all those different pieces, but just partnering with employers across the country to improve financial wellness for employees.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and so to kind of like level set then for today's call, so what we're kind of handling and talking about is the value that financial wellness has with creating an attractive employee benefits program. And when we talk about that, we talk about taking care of employees, providing them resources that they like to use, that they can access through employer on a cost effective and also just convenience factor that I think makes a big difference. And then also just how this dovetails into a lot of other areas of their life that you might not really think about. But from an employer standpoint, when we talk about helping create a competitive advantage, having a moat around your talent acquisition and retention strategies, putting these kinds of things in place can be really effective. And it's a little bit different because usually I talk about more healthcare related things, right? So virtual health or fertility benefits or care navigation. This might not feel probably like a health and welfare plan, which it's not, but it's a way that employers can scale some kind of benefit that really impacts employees in a lot of ways that's really important to them. And I think that's proven based on your all's success in the marketplace, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And really what we've seen and kind of digging in further is like as we see the evolution of benefits and the employee expectations are ever changing, more of these different types of solutions are coming to the forefront in terms of essentially reimagining what is financial wellness and how does that apply to employee benefits. We know and we've seen that employees are struggling. Finances is something that is applicable to every single employee at every employer in America. Everybody has a relationship with money, and now finding a way to help an employee kind of manage that and be more financially sound is something that then translates into the overall wellness of the employee, and as you'll see, even to their physical health as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so like if we kind of dive into like the current state, like I always, we talked about it ahead of time ahead of this call, but it's always I think helpful not just to dive into like something that we're looking at, but like level setting on where we're at exactly in the current state and understanding that there's a need for these kinds of services for the employees that we're working with at groups. And that's whether they're executives making multiple six figures or it's someone who might be making $50,000 a year and they're really watching their paychecks to make sure that they're making rent, that they're supporting their kids, and they're doing all these things. Some of the research that you had shared ahead of time found what 57% of employees say that finances are the top cause of stress in their life. That's like huge, right? And I got married last year, and one of the biggest things when we were going through wedding planning and just kind of talking through marriage stuff is that one of the biggest reasons couples end up separating is finances. It's a huge stretcher in most people's lives. That's got to be something that's at the forefront of how you all approach the work, right?
Yeah, one of the things that as we've built out, but just more importantly, helping to essentially democratize access to true sound financial planning. In the conversations that I've had with employers over the past couple of years, I still get surprised from time to time when they'll ask the question to say, well, this would be something that would be for, really high earners, or financial planning is thought of as really deep, complex investment strategy and, managing some of those like indexes in the stock market. But to your point, someone who is making $50,000 a year and living paycheck to paycheck, you can make the case that that person needs it more than the high earning executive who likely has a pretty good handle on their finances. So helping to kind of not only redefine that and think of how do we support all employees, because even if you have something as basic as making X number of dollars a year, I need help with budgeting and retirement planning, but then also helping to democratize that and provide that to employees and helping them, regardless of where they are in their financial literacy, to build out a plan that's going to make sense for them and obviously then also reduce stress.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. Like, there's always the joke around tax time that we spend time in school learning about sine waves and trigonometry and, you know, mitochondria jokes and stuff like that. But like, it comes up to tax time and people don't understand how taxes work. They don't understand how debt works. And there's a lot of times people are doing some suboptimal strategies when it comes to these things because they don't know, right? And there's huge issues out there with the way financial advice gets rendered. There's debates about how that's recompensated, and that's a whole different conversation. But for a lot of people, like, people get paid to put people in investment accounts and sell them insurance. They don't get paid to help them pay for that. So there's kind of a lack of resources there for a lot of people.
Right. Yeah. And I would even say, everybody's relationship with finance is very different. And to even make the case that employees that are struggling with finances, they're not going to be running into the HR team's, office raising their hand saying, I have a lot of debt. I don't know how to pay it down. That's something that finances is almost even more taboo than some of the other subjects that you would, explore with your coworkers. But then also just understanding that, to your point, if it's not learned about in school, and then we kind of just learn whatever their parents have told them about finances. I have a close friend here, and I live in Colorado Springs. And when she turned 18, she got a credit card. Why? Because her dad told her to build credit. And what happened? She went into credit card debt because she didn't know how to manage it. It's like, oh, this is unlimited money and I can spend it. It's like, it's not. So we find a lot of people don't have those resources to know how to ask those types of questions, or even when it comes to tax time, not only filing taxes, but something as simple as how do I pay less in taxes, which I think a lot of folks are talking about as well. So trying to find the start of where are these employees learning about finances from, and then how that then translates into adulthood, and people just try to go along to get along and are dealing with some of these things.
Yeah, so that's all huge. I'm going to go ahead and share. We had some slides prepared. I think this is really helpful just to show some of these figures that I think really drive this conversation and back up exactly what you're saying. I think some key ones that come to mind is that for a lot of employees, they're living paycheck to paycheck, about 2/3 of employees. And, again, we go back to people not understanding how debt works. I had a friend who just the timing of his paychecks didn't line up one month with rent. So he was short on rent. So what did he do? He went and got a payday. Well, he didn't pay back that payday loan in full immediately. And so it started snowballing, right? And all of a sudden he found himself in this situation of going, what was it, like 10, 12 months before he had no debt. And all of a sudden he had this huge snowball accumulate in terms of payday loans. He just didn't realize that was how that worked and understand what the interest rate was. And it was, it's very predatory, a lot of lawsuits around it, but the lack of budgeting really drove him to that, which was really, I know, super stressful for him. And we see that here in some of these stressors, right? There was a survey that we can link out. I think it was a Price Waterhouse.
Yeah, PwC, yeah.
Yeah, and it was finding that people, their financial stress had a negative impact on sleep, mental health, self-esteem, physical health, and their relationships. And if you're an employer and you think, well, that's their problems as soon as they step out the door, not our problem when they come to work, that's the reality of that is just not true. That is just going to impact them at work. I got to think that this is going to lead to frayed employee relationships. It's going to struggle with employees having retention. They're probably going to bounce around from job to job, trying to trade in, a slightly higher wage here and there. It's tough. It's putting a lot of pressure on people. You see that with that likelihood of people being 2.2 times more likely to leave organizations if they're financially stressed.
Yeah, and that's even one of the things that I think is super poignant. And not only my time here at Origin, but I spent time in a company previously that was all around benefits communication, helping to explain the value of benefits. And I think that we look at, obviously, attraction and retention from an overall perspective. I would be surprised if any employer in America didn't say that was, a key priority for their workforce. But as we look at, to your point, how does financial stress translate into attrition? And really what that comes down to is that if an employee doesn't understand how to manage their finances, or is living paycheck to paycheck and doesn't have a bigger understanding around how maybe benefits works into that from an overall perspective, then they're going to look for another job. And then you could have an employee who's making $50,000 a year look for another job and is, let's call it $55,000 a year. great, to that employee on paper, I'm making more money, but they aren't then, translating, oh, I'm paying an additional $200 per paycheck for the new healthcare coverage and all these different other pieces. So where is that, so folks are going to be looking for some of those other pieces. And another thing that, to your point of maybe payday loans, or some of the things that I hear or have heard in the marketplace of paycheck advances, or helping employees with that, like those are good band-aids, candidly, to help an employee. Or if it's like, hey, we want to give our employees are always going to ask for more money, but as opposed to, let's say, giving them $1,000 in a lifestyle spending account, if I give you $1,000, it's not going to make you a better spender, a better budgeter, or more financially sound. If I give you a resource that helps you to manage your money, inherently you're going to save more than $1,000 just in, maybe duplicate charges on your credit card, or things that you're spending money on that you don't realize that you're spending money on. So I think looking further to, like, how do we address the core issue of why employees are financially stressed, as opposed to the short-term fixes that don't really address the true issue.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys probably see this. Like, what in your experience has been the demand for this across different kinds of occupations? Because I think, and Craig in the comments on LinkedIn posted this debate around calling it financial planning versus money management. Because financial planning has a lot of connotations. You think CFP, you think investments, ETFs, you kind of think of building assets. Money management, though, for a lot of people gets exactly to what you said. They maybe they've got 3 different lines of credit, different kinds of debt that they're paying down, and they're not thinking about the different interest rates. So if they're paying them all down equally versus doing some kind of waterfall strategy and paying on the highest interest rate one first, and then moving on to the next and then the next, how that impacts them in terms of building their balance sheet over time and getting them a little healthier is huge. What do you see in terms of what kinds of employers are looking for this kind of help, and how they're thinking about this when it comes to the people that they're serving as employees?
I would say it's twofold, and one, the employers that are looking at truly addressing financial wellness, and again, the term financial wellness is thrown around a lot, but then essentially what does that mean? And it has a different definition to a lot of different people. I would say typically financial wellness is thought of as, oh, we have a 401k resource, we have, they have advisors they can go talk to. But if we're looking at 2 out of 3 employees living paycheck to paycheck, to your example, Don, your friend that took out the payday loan, he's likely not concerned with contributing to his 401k because he can't pay his rent. So helping to go, realizing that we need to go further than retirement planning, because retirement planning is probably the third domino. If we need to get budgeting in place first and have emergency savings, and then find a way to find those dollars for a 401k contribution. So helping an employee at all those different aspects, I think, is super important. Those employers that are realizing that. And then also, I think we also seen a lot of success that employers are saying, okay, I have, I do want to look at student loan repayment or some of those different pieces, but then realizing that those types of solutions out there to support an employee from end to end, as opposed to maybe siloing in one specific piece of payday loans or student loan repayment or lifestyle spending accounts. I think those employers are starting to, like, when they see what is out there and how financial wellness as a benefit has evolved, those are some of the we've seen to be, definitely leaning in a lot more.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's super interesting. So when it comes to what is being thought of, I guess, like, I've run into this with some employers where they've got a safe harbor 401k, and employers are going to get a 1-to-1 match up to 3%. They're going to get another 50 cents on the dollar contributed up to 5%, so they get a potential 4% match. And they've got employees not utilizing it, and they're pulling their hair out. They're wondering why employers aren't taking advantage of it. But it's to your point, like, if you've got debt going on, if you've got interest rates of 8% or higher, it probably doesn't make sense to contribute to your 401k. You're missing out on the match, which sucks. That's an immediate doubling of money. But
right,
well, they got to worry about putting food on the table right now, not how they're going to be putting food on the table 30 or 40 or like in our case, like 50 years from now, right? That's such a far off thing.
Yeah, I think that's even more poignant for younger employees. If you don't understand, and again, going back to the benefits, if you don't understand your benefits or how to utilize them, or the importance of 20 to 30 or 25 to 35 when it comes to compounding interest, I mean, previous to Origin, I'm the person that always helps my friends when it comes to open enrollment, if they even remember that open enrollment is happening. I had a friend once, I'm like, it was November, and I said, "You're not open enrollment is probably coming up. Like, I don't know anything about your company, but it's probably coming up." And they looked at their email, they're like, "Oh yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. I missed it." So like, we have those employees that will make those choices when they're hired and not think about it again. Or having another conversation with my brother when he got a new job and they have an HSA. And I said, "How much are you going to contribute per paycheck?" He's like, $20. I'm like, why? Like, Matt, and to me, it's a no brainer. And again, going to the 401k match or the HSA, like, you're going to use it, but we have folks, again, not understanding their benefits. And then also then that translating to, if you are living paycheck to paycheck or don't have emergency savings, that 4% match, while yes, like, we hate to leave that on the table, like, that's not something that's going to drive them to, to take even more from their paycheck, because a lot of employees only see it as how much money is coming out of my paycheck and not how that's going to build them wealth over time.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that he answered your question with $20 with a question mark at the end. Right? He's like,
I don't know. Because again, that's the only thing he saw. He saw money coming out of my paycheck and not, this is a even more tax advantage retirement vehicle if you're not using it for healthcare expenses. And like, there's so many different ways to leverage all of those benefits. So yeah, that was that just kind of gives an example of where folks at for both benefits as well as just finances in general.
Yeah, and it's hard. I mean, we rely so much on informal advice from friends, right? So like me being the healthcare person, people reach out to me periodically and say, "Hey, I'm leaving my company. Should I do COBRA or should I get an individual plan? Oh, I've moved states. Should I do this? Should I do that? Oh, what's a high deductible plan? What's an HSA?" And financially, the same thing can happen, right? And you sometimes forget because like I've been in our industry since 2012, so to me, it's like, yeah, your IRA does that, your SEP IRA does this, the HSA is that. But for a lot of people, financial literacy, it's again not something they learn, and it gives them some stress, right? When we don't understand something, whatever the topic is, we can get so stressed out about it, we sometimes then don't take action. Sometimes, not the best action or highest use of dollars, but even sometimes we just get stressed and don't do anything. So I think part of them getting into what you all are doing at Origin is helping people just understand where they're at, right? Because there's so many elements that come with financial wellness. So what are some of the things that you all are looking to address then specifically, given this big issue when it comes to providing financial wellness as a benefit?
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of going back to essentially democratizing that access to true sound financial planning and breaking the stigma, to your point, of like working with a certified financial planner is for really complex investments and different maybe like equity strategies and things like that. But essentially being able to provide that type of support that a CEO will typically get to every single employee, and building out something that's super robust and consumer grade so that employees can see and view all their finances all in one place, but then also pairing them with a person that they can work with and offering it as an employee benefit, because the statistic is 98% of Americans do not work with a financial planner. I'd be very curious to see. I would assume it may not be too high of folks that are actually reaching out to the advisors at the 401k record keepers or things like that. And then to your point, we have some folks that may start to see that snowball getting bigger, and it's scary to think about. So let's not think about it. Let's pay the minimum monthly payments. Let's get to the next month, and then it just gets worse. So helping an employee to really address that piece, and again, going further than employees want to be paid more money, totally understood, but let me help you to manage this, put a budget together, and also be the place where you can execute on some of these pieces as well, in terms of like things that you would do when it comes to finances.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't necessarily, yes, you want to get paid more money, but really you want to get paid more money so you end up with more money.
Right.
Part of managing this stuff is to make sure you end up with more money.
Right.
And so let's bounce to this next slide. So with what you all are providing in Origin, what kinds of modules or what kinds of aspects of this does this really entail? When we talk about financial wellness as like a high level topic, what are different elements of it that employees can get access to if they're using something like Origin?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And And so essentially, we built out a really, really robust platform. You think of it as, they're well, I know Mint is shutting down, but we have the Rocket Money's out there, or direct to consumer offerings that employees use to help to manage their finances. We've built something that is on par and goes even further than some of those other pieces by giving them a full platform where they actually connect all their personal financial accounts. So again, not just thinking about your 401k, your checking, your savings, your mortgage, your HSA, your car loan, every financial account that you have, you bring it all in one place so that you don't have to go to 4 different institutions to track all these different pieces. We also then do provide some automated recommendations to employees, and it can be things like, here's where your credit score is at, and here's how we can help you improve it. If you have enough or you don't have enough for 3 months of emergency savings, or here's some things to consider when building out a budget. So being that one place that employees go to give automatic recommendations, and view and track all of your finances. We also weave benefits into the conversation as well. So we have a full breakdown of, here's your compensation, here are all of your benefits. And then when we pair that with a human element of pairing every single employee with a certified financial planner, then they can work with that person on anything. It can be, I want to pay down this debt. I want to build out a budget. Where should I be investing my 401k? I want to buy a house in 2 years. What should I, how should I prepare for that? And really anything under the sun. So being able to have that really high touch and high tech piece brought together so that we can then support an employee from, with anything that has to do with the dollar. And I think that is super important, because what is out there today, I think everybody knows that you should eat healthy and go to the gym, but there are reasons why folks don't. And I think that also then translates over to finances. Everybody knows you should budget. Everybody knows you should save, but there are reasons why they don't. We are not going to be effective if we are just another solution or another resource out there that tells people to do that. We want to be super intentional at helping the specifics of the employee to say, not only you should build out a budget based off of where you are, your cash flow, your savings. This is what your budget should be, and like the specific breakdown. So making it very customized to that employee so that they can actually take that action, because again, everybody knows what they should do, but there are reasons why they're not doing it.
Yeah, and I think it's important to understand that this is not it's not helpful just to necessarily provide a spreadsheet that tells people where they're at in a moment of time, but to help them then move to action because of that, right? And identify a priority list of what we start. And so to your point, some employees, they need to focus on building up savings. Other employees need to focus on paying down debt. Other employees need to think a little bit more about how to strategically invest. Everyone's in a different state, and capturing a snapshot of where they're at now, but then tracking it over time is going to help indicate what kinds of things they should be doing. One thing I want to call out, I personally myself use Origin. I was a big Mint person, and Mint shut down. And that was kind of what I had known about y'all, and I reached out and said, hey, I think I should check this out finally, because Mint's going away and I'm losing years of data on Mint. And so I popped over onto Origin, and it's doing a lot of that stuff, and it's building on a lot of things that Mint did. And I think one thing that's super cool, we were talking about this the other day when you showed it to me, is you guys, it's the buzzword, of course, but there's AI built into this system. And the AI for you all is called Sidekick, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we built out our own proprietary AI chat, as you mentioned, called Sidekick, that employees can go to and essentially get 24/7 a CFP grade answer to any financial question that they have, and it can be something pertaining to the 401k. What's the difference between traditional and Roth? Or can I afford this expense? Or can I afford to buy this car? Or even we were chatting, John. It said, you were trying to decide or decipher how much should I spend in charitable giving. And I said, well, ask Sidekick. And essentially, because you have all your accounts connected, you can comb through all that information and then provide that to you. So definitely a really great resource to be able to give employees access to really, really strong answers and strategies around their finances. And then also a couple of the other services that we have. Not only, this is huge right now. I actually did it this past weekend. Tax filing. Employees will actually be able to file their taxes throughout the Origin platform. We have no fee auto investment brokerage accounts. And then also coming in the next few weeks here is actually trust and will planning. So employees can build something as simple as a basic will or something as complex as a living trust and everything in between. So really then being the one place not only that employees go to for their recommendations, but to say, I recommend that you build out a will. You can do that right here at Origin. I recommend that you post-tax auto invest. You can do that right here within Origin. So we have some services that go further than just than the platform and the financial planning services.
Yeah, that's super cool. I would say, like, I just pulled up Sidekick and I asked the same question. So my previous questions included how much my total expenses were dining out in 2023, my charitable giving in 2023 is after doing taxes. But I threw this one in there just now, and it pulled this up. What's my equity to fixed income ratio across all my investments? And we talk about that, what's your splits, 80-20, 60-40, 20-80, depending on where you're at in life and where your goals are. And this pulls in investments across like 4 different accounts. That's in that. While we were talking, it gave me 5 paragraphs of data and information within like 4 seconds. That's so cool.
And again, being able to pull all those things in as opposed to, you have the 401ks typically through the employers, but let's say you have a 401k that you haven't rolled over, or an IRA, or all those stuff. Like me personally, I have my 401k, I have my HSA invested in a Charles Schwab account, and then I also have my own Origin brokerage account. And I can see all of those all in one place, how each of the individual holdings are performing, and getting kind of the insight from an overall perspective, as opposed to having to go to 3 different places and kind of have that fragmented.
Yeah, that's so. So I guess the last slide that I want to share, and then we can talk a little bit about this as an example of the story and how employers can leverage Origin to their benefit, is the story about Jeremy. Can you share this with us and talk through basically the case study with us?
Yeah, absolutely, and really to kind of bring this all home. And there are so many point solutions and benefits that are out there that you can offer employees, and all of them have an impact. But really, what it comes down to is that any solution can do just about anything. But how do we help to actually impact employees, and help from like an engagement utilization perspective? So this is one of the stories of Jeremy, who actually connected with one of our certified financial planners. And again, we make the conversation super easy to help to prepare them for things that they would like to talk about. But this is a really good example of someone who's just graduating college and trying to get on their feet. As you can see here, we have limited understanding of benefits. They probably haven't enrolled in benefits so far because they're waiting to go off their parent plan when they get 26. But then also understanding, what do I do when it comes to putting a budget together? What do I do when it comes to investing? Or I don't have a tool to actually view and track all of these different pieces. So after meeting with their planner, I said, okay, great, let's build out a budget and let's track that budget within Origin with all your accounts connected, and let's find a way to find some extra dollars for emergency savings so that we can get 3 to 6 months of emergency savings in place. But then also helping to elect benefits to say, okay, great, you're young, you're healthy, you have a super rich PPO that has a really low deductible, but you also have this high deductible plan with a strong employer match, and here's the value of being able to utilize the HSA and contribute to it. Those different pieces is what an employee can reach with a certified financial planner. And then also, to your point, is like, it's really, really important at the age of 24 to contribute as much as you can to your 401k. Let's work through that. So going from, I don't have a budget, I don't understand my benefits, to creating and tracking a budget, picking the right benefits plans and contributing to your 401k only helps to make them feel so much more confident in their finances, where they are with their finances, and really do make a considerable impact on that person's life and their financial future.
That's awesome. And I think one thing that you had shared was some data on what results you're seeing for employees. And so I just want to read those off from what you guys had shared with us. So I've got 42% increase in 401k contributions, a 23% increase in 529 and HSA contributions, an average of $5,600 saved in attrition per employee. So that's going to cover like replacement costs.
Right.
A total of 2.8 million saved in backfilling roles for a company of 500, and a total of 6 million saved in backfilling roles for a company of 1,000. That's huge. And so can you talk a little bit about specifically? I think the first couple of numbers, the increase in 401k and just say 529 contributions. That's pretty easily measured. Can you walk us through though these attrition savings and the avoided mitigated costs of backfilling roles? How did you all arrive at that kind of role number?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially, what we're able to put together based off of these statistics from the PwC survey is that we have roughly 55% of employees mentioning that finance is a significant driver of stress in their life, and then 17% of those folks say that they're actually spending 3 hours of company time managing their finances. So not only are those folks losing using work hours and productive hours to be able to try to manage their finances, but to what we had talked about earlier, if we have somebody that is super stressed about their finances and think that the only way is to look for a job that pays them more money, if we can save a handful of those folks, not only in the time that HR teams have to spend going back out and recruiting, but then also saving that time from a productivity standpoint so that we can get folks to a place where they are confident in their finances and aren't stressed about it during work hours or stressed about it at all. Those are some of the ways that we brought that together to see how does overall financial stress and folks looking for different ways to help to alleviate that. And for some folks, or for a lot of folks, it is trying to find a new job. So then if we can slow down that never-ending cycle of hiring, folks leaving or firing, like those are some of the things that we're able to arrive at that.
Yeah, that's huge. Because when we talk about that with employers, the two things that we hear from groups when we're talking to them right now is they need to save money somewhere on benefits, they need to cut costs. We then have to talk about how actually making investments has an ROI to find those savings. But then on top of that, they're really concerned with recruiting and retaining people right now. Every industry is seeing issues specific to their industry, but the general trend is that we've got a tough labor market. It's something like 3% unemployment, I think. In certain industries, it's really tough to recruit. I know in the legal field, associate attorneys are bouncing around and getting 5, 10, 20% raises, going to new firms every 12 to 24 months. It's a bloodbath. And so what you can do to try to make people stickier and keep them with you, and then also, help them understand, hey, you're going to go get a little bit more money moving over there, but what difference is that really going to make in the big picture for what your financial goals are? This is a part of that. That's awesome. So when we kind of wrapping this up, what role does Origin play then in this conversation? So an employer maybe is interested or has piqued interest, and they say, maybe I want to explore this a little bit. What does that engagement look like with you?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Would love to be able to connect and just kind of talk through, even before getting into the nitty gritty around Origin and what we can do. The more important thing is what are you looking to accomplish in identifying that? What have you heard from employees? Have you executed a survey? Have employees asked about finances? Are you finding that folks are taking early 401k withdrawals, or what are some of the benefits that are in place today, and finding out what are those specific things that you're looking to offer to employees. You're looking to strengthen your benefits offering, differentiate your benefits offering. I'm hearing this from employees, and then finding a way to say what pieces of Origin align specifically with that. So what that'll typically look like is just sit down and talk through, again, what are you looking to accomplish? What are the goals that you're looking to what are the goals that you're looking to reach, and just find is Origin a right fit? And if so, great. Let's explore it and find a different find different ways that we can best align and add to that benefits offering.
Yeah, that's awesome. So and I guess another thing that would probably come up is how does this work for employers who maybe have a kind of distributed and also just complicated workforce. So let's say they've got employees in multiple states, they've got a lot of part-time, a lot of employees flirting with part-time to full-time hours and other full-times. Is this something that they can offer to everyone? Can they carve it up in certain ways? What ways can they implement this?
Yeah, no, this is definitely something that can be offered to all employees, even employees that aren't benefit eligible, because this is something that we can roll out from that perspective. Obviously, with health insurance, dental vision, if your benefits eligible, you get those. But if you do have a part-time workforce, great. We also can get super creative to say, what parts of Origin do we want to offer to different parts of the population. We also do have a voluntary offering as well to say, great, we know that budgets are super tight. Let's find a way to still roll this out to employees for, lower than what they would find in the open market and still be able to provide something.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then the other thing, I wanted to put a pin in this because I just think this is a super cool thing. We didn't have too much time to talk about it. But if you're an employer who is offering equity and a concern is, I think we always talk about with employers is they're concerned that they're offering something that they think is really valuable, but employees don't understand it. And if employees don't understand it, they don't value it the same way. And especially one of those key areas is equity, right? Because employers might think, hey, we're making a big equity. This is a huge part of potentially their compensation package, or it's a kicker. What kind of stuff do you have in that module that you're offering on the equity side? How is that playing in helping employees really recognize the value to the value benefit that they're getting?
Yeah, absolutely. And helping to not only demystify benefits and help them to understand the quantifiable value of their benefits, but then also equity plays a huge piece into that. I had equity not only in my previous employer, but also here at Origin. And I remember at my previous employer, one of my coworkers, after he hit 4 years, he just came to me. I'm no expert in equity, and said, "Okay, so I just have this money now. Like, what does this mean? Like, I'm fully vested." So we have a lot of employees that may think that, or employees that get really excited when maybe they go public. A group may go public. I saw a LinkedIn post from someone where they worked at a company, they went public, and they're like, "Great, let me exercise all of these shares," and then they get hit with a 5-figure alternative minimum tax at the end of the year, and they're like, "What?" So like being able to not only explain that to employees and help to demystify what is the benefit of being able to understand my equity. What does this mean? When should I exercise these shares and things like that?
Yeah, gotcha. Awesome. So we covered a lot of ground. We laid out and explained financial wellness, its value to people, and then how companies can really think about offering this as a benefit. And a lot of the ways this directly impacts their business, right? Again, like we talked about, this isn't something that employees step out the door of your business and now it becomes their personal problem. But this is something employees deal with in the workplace. It potentially affects how they work, and it has impacts on their health. So there's a lot of things that come up with this and how it touches so many parts of their life. Is there anything you want to leave people with before we wrap up for today, or kind of next steps and how to follow up and connect with you?
No, yeah, absolutely. First off, thanks everyone for taking some time to hop on. I'm really excited to walk through this, through these pieces. And again, if this is something that you've thought about or has piqued your interest, you can either reach out and connect with John or myself. We have to facilitate that conversation again to see how can we align, what are you looking to accomplish, and see if Origin would be a good fit.
Awesome. All right, Zach, thanks. Have a great rest of your Friday and weekend, okay?
Thanks, John. You as well.
Yeah, take care, everyone. Bye.